Hey everyone, it's our March fantasy update. March 2024 fantasy update. It has been a little bit since I did the last one. I don't remember if it ended up being a January or February update by the time I uploaded it, but I figured let's get started early with the March one and see if I can get it up before the end of the month, because that seems to be what's stalling me. So what happened during February? Very little, because I got COVID. I think for the first time. I thought I've had COVID. No, I've never had COVID before. This was the first time I had COVID. I've had colds. I got the flu one year. Um, but every time it tested negative for COVID. So this was like the first COVID. And that's a pretty freaking big deal. It knocked me out. Not only was the having COVID difficult, but it was all like in my head, sinus infection heavy, and I'm still cycling through that sinus infection. It's on its way out, but nose is runny, ears have to be popped every so often. It's a mess. And I'm still clearing my throat. So that meant that I this is my February. This is always my February. If you've been with me through February before, you know, come February, I'm going to get something. I'm going to get sick. I do a lot in the fall. This fall was not an exception. This fall, I wrote a romance book in October. I wrote a fantasy book in November. Went back and edited that romance book in December and January, and got the year ready, and launched the ream for Harshak. And like, things kept going, and I had a lot of energy to do that. But I'm an introvert, so I'm an introvert on the line of extroversion. I'm very close to being in the middle. This means, and if you've seen me at events or readings, you know, I flip a switch, I turn on the extrovert. It drains me, and I have to take at least 24 hours to recharge. At least 24 hours to recharge, which is probably why it's best that I live alone and no one has to deal with me while I recharge. But I eventually have to spend the energy I regain, and I tend to deplete it extensively, to the point where my body spends so much time recovering that energy that it's not fighting germs when they hit me. And then, of course, it's winter, so I'm already inclined to not want to eat well. So my body is not working with maybe all the nutrients it needs to do the fighting of the diseases. I always get sick in February. And then by March, April, I'm fine. It's over. The end. So I move on with life. And then I forget. And January, I'll be like, let's take advantage of all this energy I have and keep going. What I need to do in the future is either stop in January, even if I feel like I have energy to do things, or I have to anticipate that February is going to be essentially a dead month as far as productivity, because I will need time for my body to recharge. So I didn't do much in February, especially around the fantasy stuff, other than make some decisions. And I think I've talked about this, but the decision has been officially made for me that In Search of Spellcaster is going to be broken up into 3 parts. The way to interact with it is going to be in January 2025-ish, when it will be shared on Ream. And it will be shared on Ream for like 3 years. Because it's going to be 1 year for part 1, 1 year for part 2, 1 year for part 3. And then the ebook and paperback will be published. And there's a very good chance it'll be a special edition, but there'll be maybe a Kickstarter. I don't know. It really depends on how things go over the course of the 3 years. So if you want to read the Enduring series, you want to get on the Ream, which is like Patreon. You pledge a certain amount, and I release content to you. So here's what you get right now, because Ream is going on as we speak with Harshug, the 3rd book in the Frozen Wasteland series. every two Fridays a month, the first and the third Fridays, I post a chapter of the book, and you can read it anytime you want. It's there for you to read over and over again. There's other content. I think right now we're cycling through some essays I've written about my inspiration for this specific series, the Frozen Wasteland series, my research in MLMs, things like that. That's because we're sort of buying me some time to start creating some short stories, some bonus content, and things like that. What you get is dictated by the tier you select. So if you select the $3 reader tier, that's what it's called right now, you basically just get the chapters. You can read Crowlack for free. You can read Bribery for free. They are both up. If you are a member, you can get both those books, and you get the Harshug chapters. If you select the next tier, there will be that bonus content, the essays at this point. I think there will be flash fiction coming next. That's what I've been working on when I sit down to write, is really just like little things that come to me. Just fun, not really connected to anything right now, though I'm who knows what it'll turn out to, but it's just the writing exercise kind of work that gets me warmed up, things like that. There might be AI art to go with it, who knows, just fun, nothing that's really going to get published necessarily. I don't know, maybe it'll get published. There will be short stories as we go and as I write them, but my main writing energy is going to be writing In Search of Spellcaster, especially draft 2 of part 1. And I'll talk about the timing of things so that you get a better sense of how long that's going to take. But there will be writing exercises that I'm doing to work on that, and maybe a book club, maybe a movie club. I don't know yet. There will be things to unlock along the way. Do not worry. And then if you're in the top tier, the super fan tier, so it's reader, fan, super fan. And if you're in the super fan tier, you're going to get to read In Search of Spellcaster early. You're going to see the drafts. You're going to see where it started, what I was thinking, why I changed what I changed. So you're going to get really early access to something that people aren't going to read for months. And that's a $10 a month tier. So reader is $3 a month. Fan is $5 and super fan is $10. And if we get more than 3 people on the super fan tier, there will be live streams once a month instead of just these update videos for you, where I'll talk more about inspiration, so you guys can like read the books that I read, watch the shows that I read that really inspired it. You will be able to see the fan fiction origins of this. There will be far more for the super fan tier. My hope is that we can get 10 people. That's it, 10 people. Once we hit the first 10 people in one of those 3 tiers, I will figure out what to unlock. I think the first thing I want to unlock is an AI audiobook of Harshug. If we can get to 20 people a month, I will do a human narrator version of that instead of just the AI. There will be like an AI version for free on YouTube, and then I'll save to pay Gona, who did Bribery and Help Wanted New Devil's audiobook, to pay her to do another audiobook. I loved working with her, so I would totally use her again. In a few years, I might re-record Crowlack. I don't know. There's also a chapter that got added to Bribery that she didn't do the audiobook narration for, so we might have to get that in there too. So there's like a bunch of things to unlock. There will be fan art. If we can get to 30 supporters a month, there will be new fan art of the tarot cards for the Enduring series, and I might commission some fan art for the Frozen Wasteland series. But we've got to get to things. So we're starting with the 10 subscribers, 10 supporters, and then we'll start unlocking things, and we'll talk about what we can unlock and what that means and all of that. Other things that are happening, Crowlack is going to be made perma-free on all platforms. I am working on getting it up on a few smaller retailers and into libraries a bit more. Hoopla is getting a lot of attention for some other things that I'm writing, for my romance pen name. So I want to sort of give access to those readers to these books, so I can see how things are going. There's been an increasing number of reviews on Help Wanted New Devil. I'm very excited about that. Even when they aren't the best reviews, I pay attention to the number of reviews, not the content. So if you've read any of my books, you don't even have to review them. Give them a rating. Let other people know what to expect if you feel like you want to. So what is the schedule for In Search of Spellcaster? It's a great story. It's a great question. I'm so glad you asked. All right. So the first draft was about 33,000 words. Very respectable first draft. This is just part 1. Part 2 was like another 33,000 words. Part 3 has not been written yet. I will be writing the first draft of part 3 in April. Why am I waiting till April? April is when there is another Camp National Novel Writing Month event. That means I set a goal, I finished writing, I have a bunch of things to work on, but I'm gonna take some recharge vacation time to just give myself a week of writing at the beginning of the month, so I can really just focus on writing and not worry about all the other things. And it'll give me time to like do some background stuff in the office work, so to speak. So my goal is to hit about 50K in part 3, or at least 33K in the first draft, and then I will be going back to part 1 to edit for the second draft. What has to be added? I need it to be about 50K. We need to add a little romance. Not sex, but these are fated mates at this point in the series. Death in Help Wanted New Devil is asexual. He does not get a physical partner. He's death. He does have a spiritual partner, but there will never be anything physical between them because he is death, and she is not. So she has a body in our world. He never does. He has many partners, but she is like his true spiritual one. So I want to get that up to 50K, but add in some romance for you haven't met these characters yet, but there's Sabine, Carly, and Andy. They are our main 3 narrative characters. Carly and Sabine are our narrators in this book. There is some appearance by Death, but it might come out. It felt a little too exposition, like he's explaining things to you, but I have an idea of how I want to use this. The opening scene, as of right now, this is not a spoiler, this is going to go away. Sabine and Carly are about 19 years old. Carly's living in New Orleans, so Sabine goes to see her for Mardi Gras. And these are highly magical young women who have no idea how to use their magic, let alone how to not use their magic. So they drink at Mardi Gras. And they have no control over their magic. So one has she's a spellcaster, In Search of Spellcaster. This is her story. So she speaks and she makes things happen if she wants it enough. And then Sabine's magic is willful. If she wants it enough, she gets it. And Death notices that the 2 of them seem to be getting Mardi Gras beads without doing any of the Mardi Gras exchange for those beads, which is, you flash. They're not doing the flashing part. They're just getting the beads. And he is tickled that the alcohol has let down the barriers, and they have no idea that this is what is going on. They just think they are super awesome. But they're 19-year-old idiots. So they're very privileged. They're very entitled. They have no idea just how. But Andy is Carly's boyfriend. He's the mystery that they are going to be investigating, and the plot revolves around what his mystery is and how it connects to their journey. So we need a little more romance between Carly and Andy. We also need to explore Sabine's chaotic relationships, or one relationship. She is not a relationship person. She has a fated mate. It's fine. Uh, but this is going to be very low heat. I was going to try something higher heat, but I think that Help Wanted New Devil has no heat. I can't go from no romance at all to hot and sexy. And I think that given the people I'm meeting who are reading this now, who are really interested in it, a lighter physical romance and a higher emotional, mental, spiritual romance is going to work really well for this series. That's not to say there won't be adjacent books that have higher heat. It's just the main series at this point is going to be pretty low heat. I think that'll help me keep things reined in and highlight the emotions that are changing these young adults. So 2024 is really about editing part 1 after I get the first draft completed. The reason I want to have the first draft completed is because I want to give my editor Samantha a very solid outline of what's going to happen. If you've never heard me talk about my writing before, I call myself a plantser. And if you've ever seen my Instagram handle, it's Life Plantser. It has nothing to do with plants. It has everything to do with a combination of planning and pantsing, flying by the seat of my pants as a writer. I outline and then I do whatever the story does. Like, so I'm not like George R. R. Martin, who gardens, who like plants his seeds and lets them bloom. Actually, maybe I am. I plant seeds and then I let it bloom. But I know the seeds I'm planting. I'm not just planting chaos and letting things happen. I'm trying to direct what happens, and the characters are giving me the middle finger. They know their story better than I do. So having the first draft written will allow me to give Samantha, when she edits part 1 this year in October, she will know where things are going to make sure that I do enough foreshadowing, that I explain enough of the magic system, that I introduce the right amount of characters at the right point. The first part's really going to focus on Carly, Sabine, and Andy, but Sabine's siblings and Carly's sister are going to come into part 2, and then part 3 is really going to bring in another 4. So it's going to be like, we deal with our main 3 characters, and then we bring in Sabine and Carly's siblings, and then we bring in the extended family for part 3, where it all is, and we explore a little bit of Andy's background. Again, he's the mystery. We can't really do that. So that will go on Ream in 2025. While that is being shared on Ream, I will be editing part 2 throughout 2025. And then part 3 will be edited in 2026 and shared on Ream in 2027. So you can see we've got 3 years here. And then in 2028, we will release the entire book. This might be moving faster than I anticipate, or this might end up moving slower than I anticipate, rather. It depends on how many chapters, because I release by chapter. If I have enough to do 3 chapters a month, that's what we're going to do, if that makes sense to get us through a year. I don't want to take much longer than a year, but the more time you spend reading on Ream, the more time I have to make the next section really good. So that's all to say, what am I going to do in March? March has a couple things on the plate. One, I'm going to be like I've given my writing brain a month off, so I've got to like get the gears running again. It's a cold machine. So it's going to take a little time. There's going to be some writing exercises, some flash fiction to help me get going again. And then April is going to be full steam ahead on the writing. Other things I'm going to be doing in March, I'm like looking at my little Kanban board of things, releasing the chapters for Harshug so that you can read it. And then I'm going to be rewriting some of the blurbs. I haven't written a blurb for Harshug yet. These are the hardest blurbs. I mean, writing blurbs is not easy, and these are a little harder for me, mostly because they're different. There's not a lot of narrative thread to follow. There's a mystery. So I have to think about it in terms of the mystery that needs to be solved rather than the characters that are going to solve it. And that doesn't always work for a blurb. So we'll talk about that another time. And then I need to get the books wider, sharing them on other platforms and other sales places so that more people can experience them. So that's it for me. I will talk to you guys next month. I hope to see you on Ream, where I am already sharing chapters. You can read the first 3 chapters of Harshug for free on Ream. Then you have to pay for the rest. I think we are on chapter, by the time you've seen this, I think maybe chapter 6. Maybe 7. I don't even know anymore. I've lost track and I don't know when this is getting posted. So after that, you have to pay for access. The first 3 chapters are free and then you pay for the rest. So I hope you'll join us on Ream and I'll see you then or next month. Bye.